Okay, I hope the lawyer heard that. Okay, welcome to the first of what will probably be several subtopics on N1MM logger. Tonight is an introduction and an orientation to N1MM, everything that it is, everything it can do. I think most everyone on the Zoom has operated N1MM. We've used it now for field day and winter field day for, I guess, going on 3 years. So what we're looking at tonight is whether someone would want to install this in their personal shack and use it for operating their personal station. So I wanted to start with the N1MM website because and I would encourage everyone to spend some time here. There's just a world of information. These guys cover all the bases. In fact, let me start out with these guys, just to give you an idea. N1MM, Tom, MIT graduate in 1971, 60 years as a ham, as a contester. He's one of the movers and shakers at N1MM. There's an entire team of developers that have brought this software forward since its inception. In terms of IT talent, I doubt any other logger, free or purchased, can even talk about this much IT talent as well as amateur radio operating talent. So it's the real deal, and it's available for a nominal donation. They don't charge for it. It's free. Give them a donation if you like what they do. Let's go back to home. So N1MM, I think at its core, it is a logging software that allows an operator to both operate and log at the same time. And it doesn't matter the mode. The mode could be RIDI, could be CW, could be voice, could be any of the digital modes that it supports. The idea is the tasks of operating are the same tasks and logging happens concurrently. That's why we have CW operators that can run by themselves. Voice operators can run by themselves. They don't need a logger with them for any reason. The software and the user interface, this window being the primary data entry and control, it's the primary focus of N1MM. Of course, it allows us to log. It allows us to do some automated things depending on the mode. It literally can be the focus, and there's very few reasons to even turn to or reach for the radio. And if you ask AA8R Randy, his radio's in the closet. He operates with N1MM. He's using a Flex 6600 SDR radio that doesn't even have a faceplate. It's all done by software. So he's running this N1MM, and he's running a basic SDR operator interface for his radio. Let's see. Let's talk about documentation. Now there's an entire topic here on basically the steps to take to go from downloading it to operating your first contest. Well worth going through this. You talk about software setup. You talk about key assignments, function keys, interfacing. Interfacing is a big topic. because part of the idea is to automate tasks as well as linking the software to your radio. And at the most basic level of using this would be just to use it as a logger and not have any radio attached to it. So we're just logging away. The downside is it's not going to capture the frequency that the radio is on when you make the contact. So that'll have to be manually entered as you make the contact. So that gets a little bit worky, but it can be done. It can be done. Let's take a look at one of the things that I thought was important. Supported radios. Probably one of the very first questions somebody would ask. Will my radio work with it? Well, here's a comprehensive list of supported radios. And they go back, I mean, how old is the TS480, Doug?
I don't know. That radio is before my time.
Yeah, it goes back. I mean, these guys have been at it a long time. Look at the Tentex. They go back to the Argonaut 5.
Wow.
And support all the way through the Orion 7 and the Eagle. Got Zygu in here. So huge list of supported radios. Let's look at the unsupported radios. There's your unsupported radios. Pretty short list. So anyway, the first question would be, will my radio work? Well, here's where you go to find out. Another question and I'm going to find it here. Let me just search for it. Not finding it here, but there is a minimum hardware. I'll find it. Well, I'm not finding it here at the moment, but I did have it earlier, about a half an hour ago, so it is here. They do give you an idea of what's the minimum PC required to run it, and it isn't much. It's really lightweight. The contest computers that we've used the last couple of years, the little Dells, they're i5s, and in one case we use an i3. So there doesn't take a lot of computing horsepower to run this software. So there's a world of information here to go through. If you have questions, good idea to just pan through this. You know, I know hams, we generally don't like to crack the manual until we're stuck. But it's a good idea to get familiar with what we're dealing with before we just start dumping software on the computer in this case. Still. Okay. In terms of downloads, there's two different types of downloads. There's the full install download that you download and install once. You'll never have to download it and install it again unless you reset your computer. And then there are updates. The updates just update right over the top of your install. And if you're 3 or 4 updates behind, getting the most current update is cumulative. You don't have to do them in sequence. So when you download the full install, it won't be up to date because they don't revise the full install with each update. So once you have it installed on your computer, next thing you're going to want to do is go let it do its update and get it up to date. But let me show you some things about install before you pull the trigger. N1MM install places files in 2 different locations. The first one is it'll create a folder in your documents folder. This is where all of the configuration types of things that we set up, things like function key messages, skins and layouts, databases, all these things live here. This PC, documents, N1MM Logger Plus. Now the reason I'm pointing this out, I've had this happen, and it's a big minefield if you go down it. Pay close attention during the install as it's confirming what path you want to place these files in. If OneDrive is in that path, remove it. This will not work if this is living out on your OneDrive. And OneDrive is so pervasive, it'll try to insert itself. So when you're doing the install and it's asking where do you want to put the files, you might see OneDrive inserted right in here. Pay close attention. Don't allow it to happen. I had it happen, and I ended up having to reset the PC because N1MM is very difficult to remove, especially if it's installed improperly. So all of the N1M files that we get involved with live here. User-defined contests, we'll talk about that later. Databases, you see here I've got, these are my log databases, and then here's W6BFK from 2023. I'll show you later, but generally I create a personal N1MM database for each calendar year, and then within that database I create logs. So contest logs, general activity logs all live in a database, so I organize them by year. The other place it's going to push and put files is in the program files on your C drive. And this is most of what we don't have to get involved with. There will be some things that we place here, but generally this is where the application lives. Again, make sure OneDrive doesn't try to put it in the cloud on you. It'll never work. So just want to point those 2 things out because you can end up in a mess. Hot topics, a lot of good information here. A lot of talk about digital modes. In fact, I was speaking with NC4CC last week, and he said the most current WSJTX, I believe it was WSJTX or its grid tracker, which uses WSJTX as its engine, now actively supports logging to N1MM+. Before last summer, we had to set a port and have a grid tracker write each contact into the log through port 2300. Apparently, WSJTX and grid tracker have adopted that for AAR field day. So now it's there. How-to videos, I didn't look at this, but these guys they're just monsters at creating and supporting the software. So I would encourage, spend a little time here and be a little patient in setting this up on your home station. If you do, you'll be rewarded with a fantastic operating environment. If not, you could end up totally having to reset your computer. Okay. So that's enough of that. Let's talk about this. This is that main entry window. This is the focus. And N1MM is organized in windows. In fact, I'll just for giggles, I'm just going to blast up, if it will, all the different windows that might be used. Just not going to explain them, just going to show you all the different there. It's going to go out on the internet and grab an update for me. So you build your yeah, go ahead, Rich.
Can you share a database on your, like if you have a network at home? The reason I asked, could you have this running on more than one computer?
Sure. That at Winter Field Day, we had this running on 5 computers, one of them being a master, 4 of them linked to radios. They were all running into the WX4E 2024 database, and they were all being logged. All the data was being logged into one contest.
Okay.
So yes, you can. That's one of the real beauties of it. When you're running a network of N1MM instances, each instance has its own copy of the log. And as every contact is logged, every log is synchronized. So we weren't betting the farm on the master computer at Winter Field Day. It could have gone up in flames and we wouldn't have lost a thing.
Okay.
Because the contest database, the log, was on every other machine there and was up to date. We could have lost the Wi-Fi. And while they would not have been synchronizing, each computer would have its own QSOs in its log. And once we brought the Wi-Fi back up, we could resynchronize them.
Okay. Cool.
So it's a very safe way to operate.
Does it let you do remote operation? Does it let you do remote operation as long as you're hooked up to your Wi-Fi? Could you have a computer in your Hampshire, computer out on the Lanai, for say, and would it operate that way?
In terms of remote operation, I'm sure it can be used because the Flex Radio guys do it all the time.
Yeah.
I've never done it. And I mean, really, N1MM is going to see it as just another radio, especially if you're talking smart SDR. But you'd have to really work through that with, there's a few different ways of running a radio remote now. And you'd have to make sure you're exposing everything that N1MM needs to operate.
But if you were within your own Wi-Fi system and just in a different part of the system physically, but in the Wi-Fi, would you be able to operate the two computers that
Well,
way?
again, your radio has to expose all of the data that N1MM needs.
Okay,
And that could be everything from push to talk,
yeah,
to cat control, to frequency,
okay,
to CW, computer generated CW if you're doing that. Again, it's a question of whether you can expose the information on your network from your rig in a way that N1M can use it.
got it, yeah. Not as simple as I'd hoped, but thank you.
Well, nothing's ever simple. Well, it's simple the second time. It's not simple the first time. It'd be a good question for Tom Chance. He runs remote all the time. He operates he operates his K4D from Punta Gorda, and it's up in Indiana. And all he does is contests. So it'd be a good question of how he does it. So anyway, I just wanted to point out, these are all the windows that we can use to build our operating interface. I just splashed some things up here just to give you an idea. And when we get deeper into this, we'll get into what each of them do, why you might want them, why you might not. But once it's installed, once you're at this point, the first thing you're going to want to do is create your database. And it will go in, it'll drop you in that documents folder, N1MM logger under databases. This is where the databases live. And you can see I've created, here's my 2023, here's my 2024, and here's a W6BFK 2023. So we got to create an environment for our logs. And then once we've created a log, we're going to open our database. I'm just going to say it wants to jump to logs I already have. But let's go ahead and create a new log in this database. And I want to show you one that's not a contest. While we're looking, these are all the supported contests and activities. General logging, DX. Let's take a look at that. Let's just say you're sitting around the shack late at night chasing DX. Well, you could log it in here. You could use Telnet and spotting, which work with N1MM. If you saw us at Winterfield 8, you saw us using spots and Telnet to get us an idea where things are. I use it in this type of a log for DX hunting, because I'll just have in the spectrum and in my band map, I'll have DX spots out there. I can just go right to them and try to work them.
Dennis,
Yeah.
I believe there's also a POTA one,
Oh,
which a lot of guys might be interested in.
You're absolutely right. I was going to go to that next. You're absolutely right.
Sorry, I'll back out.
No, you're right. You're right. You've got islands on the air. Got QSO parties, all the state QSO parties, and some of the other ones are in here.
Looks like you haven't downloaded it yet. The POTA.
I was thinking it was under something else, not in the P's.
I think I thought it was down under the piece. It is under mine anyway. If I scroll all the way down, I will come to parts on the air in the P's, I think. Yes, it's just below Portugal Day contest.
I think it's an extra thing that
Oh, it's
you
a
download.
Is it a UDC?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's not here, but just because it's not embedded in N1MM doesn't mean it's not supported. So let's back out of this. And let's go back here. And user-defined contest. If it's not listed in the native N1MM, there's over 376 UDC files, which are user-design contests. So there was POTA right there. There's POTA right there.
And one above it.
Yep. So the way to get or one above it, and there's another one here by W6BFK. So two different versions of it. So what you would do if you find that you want to work an activity and it's not native to N1MM, come take a look at the user-defined contest, download it. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and download POTA since I don't have it on this machine. Okay. I'm going to cut that. And then I'm going to go to my documents folder, N1MM logger, user-defined contest, paste it in there,
There you go.
and then let's restart. Now, if everything went well, there it is, Parks on the Air. So that's how you go from, hey, I don't see my activity, finding it as a user-defined contest and putting it where N1MM can use it. So you can go run, I've used this as an activator a little bit. I presume you could use it as a hunter as well. I have, and I prefer hammers for that particular job. But you know, there's much more than just contesting here. You know, as far as things like DX, you know, being able to hunt DX with all the spotting capabilities of N1MM, it really makes it pretty easy. Okay, what are some of the other things? Let's take a look at, let's just open one and I want to show you a few other things. Okay, what's all this stuff? These are all F keys and they have a defined function behind them. And that defined function depends on the mode. And yes, it is possible to define these to do things for phone. to actually create WAV file recordings of your CQ, of your exchange, of your thank you. See if I can find anything. All my stuff is CW. So anyway, I'll show you how to attach that. Let's take a look at CW as an example. But the only difference between CW, RTTY, or phone is what's behind this and what it's going to send it. If we're working a phone, you know, and this would be very useful, you know, in a personal station. It's a lot harder to do when you have 20 operators in the shack and you got to organize everybody's voice files. But certainly Doug could use this, create his audio files for his call sign, his exchange, his thank you, his repeat, his my call times 2. I mean, we've got 12 different F keys that we can define that will do something for us for a QSO. You know, ask a question, ask for a name, ask for, you know, send a partial call, all these things. And it doesn't matter whether it's CW or voice or one of the digital, well, RTTY especially, because these will actually be tied to RTTY. So it's just a question of how automated you want to get. I will show, for purposes of showing it with CW, this is the file behind the F key definitions. And they're organized in blue would be what we see if we're in run mode. In green, they're the definitions for search and pounce. So if you're the runner, there's one set of definitions. If you're the hunter or search and pounce, there's another set of definitions. So it's a great way to save your voice. This is how CW operators can run over 100 QSOs an hour with ease, because they're not reaching for the key to do all this work. It makes CW contesting especially much faster because the computer is generating perfect code. You know, we're not having to work through somebody's ability to send, you know, the mistakes they might be sending with a key. You know, you could do, well, you guys are probably all going to be lined up to record Ariel's voice for your CQ call for voice.
That's right.
You know, there's plenty of ways to work, but this is one of the many powers of N1MM, is the ability to automate what you're doing. I don't have my radio operating right now, but you'll see band changes. I don't have to reach for the radio to change my band. Let me go ahead and wake this sucker up. I'll just keep talking, but I'm going to go ahead and start my rig and get it connected. You know, so we've covered the background of N1MM. We talked about getting it installed. We talked about creating your database and how to create your logs. We started talking about some of the automation. Now we're going to talk about, we're going to kind of back our way into this, I think. We're going to go ahead and invoke the link between my radio and N1MM. And if you can hear that, that's my radio changing band. And you can see up here my frequency. I'm going to roll my VFO and you can see it change. You see how quickly a QSO ends up in the log. It skims the frequency, captures the time, and just quickly you can throw information in here. And throw contacts in. And you'll actually see another thing going on. So I'm calling CQ, and it wouldn't matter whether it's CW or voice. And you'll notice I've got a feature called Enter Sends Message set up. And this amber will move depending on where I'm at. Okay, see, I've got a partial call in there. I can go F5. And I can send that partial call back. I'm fishing for the rest of his call. Or I can just hit enter. Enter does whatever's highlighted in amber, it's going to do if I hit enter. And then you see I've got preloaded his name. My next enter key is going to send my thank you and throw it in the log. So that's one of the very, very most powerful tools of N1MM is defining your F keys for whatever mode you're using a tool called Enter Sends Message, which is basically giving you hints. You can sit here and literally type, enter, and it's in the log. And you can navigate from field that needs to be entered to field. I'm just pressing the space bar. So if I've got and I need to get back to his well, it's not doing it, huh? But anyway, it's easy to navigate. The space bar. You go back and fix a call sign or fix a name, whatever. Space bar will get you there. You know, again, everything is set up so this is the focus. We don't have to have our eyes looking anywhere else. Our hands don't have to leave the keyboard, very rarely. About the only time that my hands leave the keyboard is if I'm adjusting a filter on the radio. You see, I just did a frequency change. I don't have to reach for the knob. So that's the beauty of cat control. Now let's talk about, let me clean this log up. Misspelled it. Okay. So how do we get our radio working with N1MM? And this is going to be different for every radio. You have to establish cat control as a minimum. If you have both cat control and audio being passed back and forth, then you have the best of all worlds. Some of the older radios may not be able to do that. Cat control might be all you have. So you might still be using, using the push to talk on the radio. You might be using a headset and talking into the radio the way we do phone at field day and winter field day. That audio isn't passing from N1MM because we're not using pre-recorded. And some of the older radios that don't have that ability won't be able to do that. Um, in that era of radios for CW, we used a tool called the K1EL wind keyer, which would basically, N1MM could communicate with the wind keyer, and the wind keyer would just send the dits and dahs to the radio, and the radio would transmit it based on it had a straight key plugged into it. So how do we do that? How do we make a connection to a radio? That comes up very first topic under configure. And this is where we create the link. We need to know where the radio is on a COM port. And for those who may not be too comfortable with doing that, get used to it. Very first thing you do when you plug a radio into a USB port on your computer is you got to come find it. Where is it? Be right in here in Device Manager. Where is it? So you got to know that. Come in here and you select it. Let's say we're using a 590. That's actually going to puke because it's not on there. Well, let's try it and see what it happens. So you select your radio from a list. And you see there's quite a bit here. Maybe let's do a 710. And then we're going to go set. And it pops up the basic communication parameters for cat control and a little bit more. It'll give you suggested settings for the radio. But these settings you need to confirm these in the radio menu as well. The baud rate, parity, the data bit, the stop bit, those have to match. With some of the ICOMs, you also have to get the hexadecimal address for the radio. That has to match. Then you have to think about how you're gonna control push to talk. I don't know if this is the way we're controlling the club station. RTS is push to talk, and we're using DTR as CW. Push to talk delays, things like that. So these are the basic communication parameters that allows the N1MM to skim what it needs from the radio and control the radio. We have a lot of other things going on here. We have, if we're using a wind keyer, let's say our radio does not have the ability to do, let's say we're not going to use DTR and RTS for an older radio, like the 7300, then we'll also set up a wind keyer. It'll be on another COM port, and we'll configure that, and this will, N1MM will communicate to the wind keyer communicate to the radio. This is going to be different for every radio. Well, it'll be different between manufacturers and eras of radio. Like 7300 and the 7610 are basically the same. I'm sure the later Kenwoods are basically the same. The Yaesus, the 710 and the DX10 are probably identical in how to set them up. But if you go back to a radio that's 10 years older, it's probably going to be different.
Dennis,
Yes.
I get a message every time I open N1MM up for tracing. You guys ever figure out what that was?
Tracing?
Yeah, it says something about tracing is on. Do you want to continue?
Can you grab a screenshot of it?
Let me do it again. Okay, it says N1MM logger.net tracing is turned on. That may impact performance negatively. Do you really want to run with tracing on? Just a pop-up window before the main N1MM window opens up. I know we had this before at one of the field day things, and I can't remember if you guys resolved it or not.
That sounds like it's in a debug mode.
Really? All right. I'll figure it out. I thought maybe you had a quickie answer.
Yeah. Go in on your main menu on tools,
Okay.
about, what is that, fifth from the bottom, program execution logging diagnostic.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's,
Oh, yeah. It's got disable all, execute tracing, performance tracing, all kinds of different
Select,
tracing.
disable all.
I'll try that. Tracing not require. Okay. So I did. Let me restart and see what happens. Yep, that was it. Thanks.
Okay. There you go. Randy should be teaching this course, not me.
I'm not a teacher. I'm a listener.
So what I would say is this: when we get back together for the second session, we'll basically have to do a workshop and work through and get everyone's rig working, because there's hundreds of radios out there, so we'll just have to take them one at a time.
Yeah, for what it's worth, Dennis, I'm running the Kenwood, which is one of the radios that does require the wind keyer. But man, it works like a champ, and I found huge value in the wind keyer itself, using other programs as well. So it really works well.
Mm-hmm. It's only very recently that that radios would actually accept CW from the computer with DTR and RTS. Tom Chance claims he can do it with a 7300. I could never get it to work, but it runs like slicker than owl manure with the Elecraft.
So in order to transmit CW directly from N1MM without running your bug or your keyer, your straight key, whatever, you need wind keyer, it sounds like, or is that not true depending on the radio?
It depends on the radio.
Okay.
You're running what, a DX?
I got a 101 Delta. Yeah, FTDX 101 Delta. So it's got built-in keyer, for my paddle.
Well, it's coming up with CW and PTT. I would say just try it. Basically, take the defaults.
Okay, where are you at? You're under config. I wasn't following you. Okay, config.
Yep. Set your COM port.
Yep. Yeah, I got rig control.
Okay. Then go in, take a look at your set,
Set. Okay.
and what do you have for DTR and RTS?
Always on.
Okay, change it to DTR as CW.
Oh. Okay.
And RTS is push to talk.
Push to talk. Okay.
And then just say okay to that.
Okay.
And then do you have a contest, a log open that,
I just have I think it's just a general log. Yeah.
okay, but do you have it set up for CW?
I do. I got a CW column. Yeah.
then go ahead and click on a band over there.
Yeah,
Do whatever you need to do to protect your radio, because we're gonna transmit.
it's in monitor mode, so I'm
Okay.
not gonna put anything out.
Okay? So you should have F key definitions for CW, right?
I think so.
You have a band selected in the CW column, right?
Yeah, let me go to 20 meters here. Hold on a minute. Okay, so it's at 14.00. Let me spin the VFO a little.
Now just type what you need up here.
Okay, so where am I typing? Oh, okay, could do it right there. Okay. All right. So I'm at a frequency even though I'm not going to transmit.
Okay, then just hit
Any of these
Yeah.
function keys?
yeah, just hit the F3.
Got nothing. Oh, hold on a second. No, got nothing.
Okay,
Two thoughts on that. The monitor may disable any push to talk. And if the FT101 is similar to the FT710 within the
I don't think it is.
okay. I was just going to say in the 710, one of the menu items in there is you got to have RTS enabled.
Right, and I think I do.
Okay.
yeah, that's true. You have to, the same thing is true in the Yellowcraft.
Yeah,
If I'm using DTR for CW and RTS for push to talk, those settings have to match in the radio menu.
all right, I won't take up much time, but okay, I'll check that stuff out. But
Yeah,
you're telling me I should be able to try these function keys and it should transmit the code.
If that radio is capable of using DTR and RTS to send CW, it should.
Okay,
I don't know that radio.
I know.
That's,
Okay.
this is where you do it.
And what about speed? How fast is it transmitting?
So
Is that a setting in the radio?
that's back here.
Where were you? Where are you?
I'm back on the main window.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Gotcha. All right.
Hey, Dennis, is there a way to make that default speed come up the same every time? I don't want 37.
What, this? This speed?
Yes. Yeah.
It's gonna come up, if you're in the same log, it'll come up at what you last set it at.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. When you set up your wind keyer, you got some things you need to tell it down here. You want to use the dial on the wind keyer to be able to quickly reach up and speed up and slow down, or you want to ignore it. You got to pay attention to these settings. And then even if you've got a key connected to that wind keyer, this is the speed, even if you're hand sending through your wind keyer with your paddles, it's going to go out at this speed, not the word per minute speed on the rig.
So the wind keyer is buffering it.
Right, that's right.
Okay.
That was the reason why it was created back when Windows machines had a lot of interrupts and was messing with CW time.
Okay.
So like I say, I think second session, we'll come back with a workshop, and we'll basically make sure everybody's got their radio configured properly. And we'll get a little bit deeper into this. Now there's a world of things under here. Really your entire experience is established right here in these three. You know, it can be anything from CW definition keys. Well, let me show you that. There are files, for example, the function key definitions travel as files. And when you're setting up a log, you know, you'll set up, this is the information about your station. These are the files. You know, for example, I could change my, and look, I'm changing my CW function keys for general DX, and it's going out to N1MM and grabbing the most current. I could also change it to a CW function key file I've created and saved in my N1MM folder under documents,
Sorry
and I
about
can
that.
come back to them. You know, you can attach all of these files that you use specifically for each contest. You just tell the contest log to use this and use that, and build up your operator interface specific to a particular contest. So I think we probably want to stop here. Are there any questions? No? Next topics, any requests for next topics under N1MM?
Dennis, it's a hugely powerful program. Thank you for introducing it. I've fallen in love with it. There's just so much to know. I've just scratched the surface. But I think if you can get people configured so the system is running with their radio, then we can start to make sure they understand the databases and you know, how to bring in some of these F keys. Already you've given me several files that just work like a champ. I've customized most of mine to make me happy. I play with them. So there's just so much to learn right in that area.
Yep.
So those files that you're talking about there, Doug and Dennis, especially CW. So those are pre-programmed for CW exchanges. So you don't have to key it in and store it as an audio file.
Well, for CW, no. You don't have to save it as an audio file. It's not like you're pressing a message key on radio.
Okay.
They're defined right here. And let me just give you some of the shorthand. You know, this is a CQ call for, I think it's general DX. So CQ, what's inside the brackets, it's going to go pull that from over here. Or actually, that one's going to pull from station data. You know, so that my call, that's coming from here.
Or whoever was the last one to do the control O.
Right.
No, I'll take that back. You
It
were
wouldn't be
right.
in the CQ call.
It would be that, either that or an asterisk.
Right. Yep. An asterisk will do the same thing as a my call. The exclamation point will send whatever is in.
But I'm missing a step here. I mean, I see that exchange, you know, I see that in the text files. So that's just text. So how does it get converted to dits and das?
Magic.
Is that Win
I
key
like
doing
it, magic.
Yeah. There's always a little FM in this, Leonard. No, N1MM converts that to converts that text into the DTR string that the radio will understand.
Oh, it does. Oh,
And then the radio will will convert that into code.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Now, if you're doing sideband, um, you'll actually create, I believe it's WAV files. I'm not sure, but you basically record your voice for any of these F key definitions, and then you've got to create that attachment, and it'll be more of a call function. It'll call that WAV file and transmit it to the radio.
Okay.
Randy probably knows all about single sideband voice contesting, I think.
Who does?
Randy.
Randy who?
He doesn't own a microphone. Mine are
Exactly.
dusty and buried. He doesn't even own one.
I do need to learn to do that, though. I need to learn how to save the WAV files. That's pretty cool.
Yep. Yeah, I think for, well, you've got AARL DX sideband this weekend, Doug. There's your chance.
Perfect opportunity. No
It
wife.
is.
It's just me and Ray. Hey,
There you
we can
go.
play.
Where you run into trouble is when the exchange is a serial number.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
That's international, isn't it?
What,
Typically.
ones and twos and threes.
Yeah, actually, this contest isn't, but, and actually, even if you had nothing more than your search and pounce call, your thank you, your CQ,
Again,
again, yeah,
repeat, those kinds of things.
right. But if you actually have to voice the exchange itself, that's still better than having to voice it all. So, okay. Well,
Great stuff.
I hope we did enough to wet your guys' whistle, make you think about using this at home. I only use 2 logging software packages, this one and Hammers. And they are just logging software packages. It's not where I keep my master log. In fact, I'll export, whenever I do an activity, I'll export them out of this and shove them up to my QRZ and over to Logbook of the World. I don't particularly store logs in N1MM. It's a logger. It's not a log vault. But everybody has their own way of doing that.
And so this program will not automatically send your logs to QRZ or Logbook of the World, correct?
Right, you just come in here at the end of the activity, just do an export to ADI, and then you go over to QRZ and you upload the ADI to QRZ. You can generate your contest log, generate your Cabrillo. Like at the end of a couple days after Winterfield Day, and I'd synced all the computers and looked over the log. I just came in here and created the Winterfield Day Cabrillo from here, and then did a little bit of doctoring to the text, and it was ready to go.
Question?
Mm-hmm.
I thought there was a fee involved to purchase N1MM. Is that correct?
No.
No fee?
N1MM is free. They do request donations.
Oh, okay. Is that what it was?
Yeah,
Okay.
because you've got a number of high power guys that are doing this on their own time and their own dime.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you very much.
Anything else?
Good.
Okay. In closing, I'll share with you something Tom Chance told me about a year ago. He told me every time he operates in a contest, he learns something new about N1MM. Anytime he's in with other operators, they learn from each other new tips and tricks about N1MM. That's how deep this is as a product.
Wow.
It would take a guy who's been doing this for probably 30 years, and he's still learning new shortcuts and new tricks to N1MM. There's just a world here. The other thing I'll say, don't make the mistake of downloading and printing the full N1MM manual. Last time I did it, it was 2 inches of paper, both sides. Grab the PDF, but don't send it to the printer. All right, guys, anything else?
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, Dennis. Great job.
Yep, thank you. Let me
Thanks
shut-
for all the help.
Yep.
Yep.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you.
Yep, let me shut down my.
Doug, are you hanging around for a little bit?
Sure, I can hang for a minute.